I hit every fucking branch on the way up. ADHD, carrying shame or carrying a name. I went 40 years before anybody named my ADHD. Join me as I unpack and reflect on my lived experience with the support of a really incredible doctor of psychology. I have to say I'm enjoying the process of sitting every week in a room with a professional, taking the whole thing apart with the lights on, you know. I lived for 40 years as a kid nobody knew had ADHD, and now I'm sitting opposite someone whose job it is to help me see it in the context of my broader mental health. That's the view I'm writing this from, and I'm writing it for two people. The kid I was and the kid that you're losing your patience with right now, because they're closer to the same person than you think. You've explained things twice. The homework was in the bag and now it's nowhere. The job you asked for on Monday, that still hasn't happened by Thursday. The list you made together, the calendar, the reminders, the whiteboard on the fridge, all of it sitting there untouched while they tell you that they forgot again. And you feel that thing rise in you that you don't like, but you can't always stop. I'm not going to tell you that that feeling's wrong. It's real, and pretending otherwise would be no use to you. So let's leave it standing there and just go to the other side. They already know. That's the first thing, and it's the thing nearly everybody gets wrong, so stay with it. Whatever age they are, 7 or 17 or 35 and not picking up the phone, they already know they're getting it wrong. They knew before you said it. There's a scoreboard running inside them that doesn't switch off, and it's more brutal than anything that you would ever say out loud, because at least you have the decency to stop. It doesn't. And so when you point out the thing they missed or give the advice, you're not giving them support. You think you are. You're actually giving them evidence. One more entry in a case that they've been building against themselves since they were small. They're telling me the solution's so obviously simple, therefore I must be fucking stupid, I must be lazy, I must be different. And here's the part that's hard, so hold on to it. It's fucking frustrating them more than it's annoying you. They might not show it. That's called masking. Do you think they want to live life on hard mode? Do you think anybody wakes up and chooses to be the one who forgets, who's late, who starts 10 things and finishes 2, who's somehow difficult to love by the exact people whose love they need the most? They absorb your disappointment. Internalizing disappointment from people who matter becomes shame. That turns into shame. Who the fuck picks that? It isn't laziness, it never was. What you're watching is a condition, and the brain underneath it runs a different operating system to yours, which means for every fix that you reach for, just make a list, just set an alarm, I've told you twice, it assumes a piece of hardware that they don't have. You're not being ignored. You're issuing instructions to a machine built to a different spec, and then you're taking that failure personally. I'll keep the science brief because this isn't a lecture. ADHD runs in families more frequently than almost anything in psychiatry. The brain is wired for wider scanning, and there's good evidence it carries advantages that we've evolved to need, which I've written about elsewhere and I won't go into again here. And the coping that people build around it, those rigid routines, the overworking, the reminders stacked on reminders, the constant low-grade performance of having it together, those aren't proof that somebody beat their laziness. There was never any laziness to beat. They're fucking exhausting, and they're usually the very thing that masks how hard it is, which is exactly why so many of us walked all the way into our late diagnosis without any name for this. Which brings me to the road. There are 2 of them. And I want to be honest about both, because the version of this conversation where one road is good and the other road is bad is a lie, and it's not helpful. The road I walked was the hard one, which we can call a fucking understatement. If there was a hard way, a complex way, a messy way, I took it. Never on purpose. I always appreciated good advice. I just never absorbed it. It didn't change behaviour. It was like judging a fish by how well it could climb a tree. and I hit every fucking branch on the way up. Undiagnosed, no language in the room, means you learn everything the brutal way, the stressful way, the dramatic way. You get things wrong in public and feel the heat of that. My generation mostly walked that road because there was no other road on offer. We fell through the net before anybody knew that a net was needed. I was the kid in A&E most weekends, the kid social services had to come and do a welfare check on, the kid that the teachers just said, "Oh, that's just Edward," which was the most loving and most damaging sentence in the same breath. Loving because it meant I was never made to feel like I needed fixing. Damaging because the bill for that misdiagnosis didn't land until I was in my mid-40s, sitting across from a clinician, watching my entire life reorganise itself around a condition that I'd never understood or heard about. And here's what the hard road cost. Specifically, so you know I'm not romanticising it. Huge highs and massive lows. Burned bridges, a lot of them. Scorched earth. A relationship to my own failures so raw that getting something wrong felt like a physical event. A sense running underneath everything of, am I good enough? Am I all talk and no delivery? Every single day, regardless of what the evidence said. Decades of being excellent at the performance and completely alone inside it. But there's a strange gift buried in that road too, and I'd be lying to you if I left it out. The hard road forged things. The pattern recognition that let me run rooms full of cleverer people than me. The justice sensitivity that means that I can't let unfairness go, even when letting it go would have been the smart move. The capacity to function at full tilt in environments that broke other people. The insight, the layers, the hard-won understanding of how to survive and how to keep going. I learned to read a room before anybody opened their mouth, because for a long time my safety depended on it. That's real, and that's mine, and I wouldn't hand it back. Many parents might read that and think, the suffering, the consequences made him. If I smooth the road from a kid and I don't let them fail, do I rob them of that forging? Will they ever be capable, responsible, successful? And that's such an important question underneath the whole thing, and I've sat with it long enough now, and with help, to give you a straight answer. No. Because the forging and the masking, it didn't come from the shame. The forging came from the wiring, not the wounds. The scanning brain, the intensity, the pattern recognition, that's the hardware. And your kid has it whether you shame them or not. What the shame and the silence added wasn't the strength. They added the mental injuries, the burned bridges, the 40 years of am I good enough, the drinking, the hiding, the near misses that I'm not going to detail here. None of that forged me. That was the tax that I paid for not having a fucking word for what I was experiencing. You can take the shame out and you can keep the forging. They're two separate things. I promise you, they are two separate things entirely. And the only reason it doesn't feel that way is that, especially for my generation, they arrived together. Teaching your child self-reliance, independence, capability and responsibility, it seems to fly in the face of tolerating their lack of structure, laziness, disorganisation and lack of focus, which is a key mindset shift for the parent, focusing on the root cause of the issue, and the issue is ADHD, and not the symptom or the presentation, is the work the parent must take on. And in fairness, a diagnosis can become a ceiling if you let it. It can morph into an excuse instead of explaining it. The gap between those two words is where the hard work lives. Your kid is going to grow up in a world that calls this a fad, a trend. Everybody's got it now. And they'll have to carry the disorder and the eye-rolling about the condition at the same time. The supported road, done lazily, can drop the expectation along with the shame. And that helps nobody. I'm not advocating that soft option. The shift in mindset and approach is a different kind of hard work. But fuck me, it's the better hard, because difficulty is inevitable. The brain is the brain, and you can't give them a life where focus and time and follow through comes easily. That's not on the menu. What is on the menu, the only variable you can actually control is whether they walk the hard road ashamed and silent or seen and believed. That's it. That's the entire thing that you get a say in. So let me tell you what helped and what didn't in real time, straight from the psychologist's chair, because this is the part I've never seen written down properly, and it's the part that you can use tonight. What didn't help? Being managed. Being met with a solution when what I needed was for somebody to say, that sounds really fucking hard, and mean it, and then say nothing else. Being praised for the mask, for being the good boy who lowered the tension in the room, because all that taught me was that the performance is the price of being loved. Performance is the price of being perceived as successful. Performance is the price of being perceived as functioning. Being told to try harder, which I heard every time as, you're not trying. When the truth was, I was trying so fucking hard, it was costing me everything, and I was still coming up short. What would have helped? Shame-free spaces, being believed, dialing down the drama, calm reactions, no hard consequences for the presentation of my condition. Lowering the temperature always produced better results. Someone who looked at the mess and didn't conclude I was a fuck up. That single act, changing the story from he couldn't be bothered, he's not trying hard enough, if only he did this, to he's compensating so well with a condition that's making it harder for him. That's one of the most powerful things that can happen to a human being, and you don't need a clinic to do it. You need one sentence, some version of, I think I got you wrong here, and I'm starting to understand the way your brain works. If your kid is already grown and the distance between you is years deep, that sentence is also the whole repair. And here's some other really hard stuff, so I'll be straight about it. The instinct when you go to make it right will be to defend. I did my best. It was a different time. We didn't know any of this back then. Every word of that may be true, but you also reinforced your frustration. You made them feel they were underperforming, that they were frustrating you. They absorbed those feelings. They internalized all of your verbal and non-verbal communication, intentionally or not. It happened. So for fuck's sake, don't lead with that. If you lead with it, you've just taught the original lesson one more time, because the original lesson, the one that built the mask, was this: my struggle is inconvenient to the people I love, so I better hide it. When your grown kid finally tells you how it felt, or you're having a conversation about it now, and you reach for your own innocence, you will confirm that message. You tell them again, their pain has to make room for your comfort. Repair may mean sitting in their anger without flinching, and not defending yourself the moment that they finally tell you the truth or talk about it. Let them be furious at a version of you that genuinely didn't know better. Make the disorder the antagonist, not the child, not yourself, and let them be angry that it went unnamed for so long, even though it wasn't your fault. Because when the adult was a little person, they swallowed all that shame, and they don't care whose fault it was. They just need somebody to stand in it and stand with them on their side. 2 more things directly, and then I'm going to leave that. If you're the kid reading this, maybe over a parent's shoulder, or because they sent it to you, or because you found it yourself at 1 a.m, the way we find these things, you weren't lazy. You were never lazy. You were running a brain nobody handed you the manual for, in a world that was built for a different model. And the fact that you're still here, still trying, that isn't failure. It's a hyper-alert nervous system that never got told to stand down. The verdict that you reached about yourself was made with the wrong evidence, and you're allowed to now reread that evidence, reanalyze that data. I did at 45, and I'm still doing it in that room every week, and it's slow and it's got layers of complexity, but fuck me, it's worth it. And if you're the parent, your kid isn't getting away with something. Your kid is getting away from the one place where they can't bear to feel like a disappointment, which is the place where you are. The frustration is real, and I'm not asking you to swallow it. I'm asking you to aim it at the right target, not the kid, the disorder. The thing you can finally name together on the same team. And the fact that you've listened this far or read all this way on the essay means that you're still looking for a better way to love. And that tells me everything about which kind of parent you are. You can't choose an easy road for them because there isn't one. Their brain is their brain. But you do get to choose whether they walk it carrying shame or carrying a name for the way that their brain works. I've walked mine carrying shame for 40 years, and anyone give me, the other thing. And I'm telling you, from the clearest vantage I've ever had on it, the diagnosis would have changed everything. If a particular face came to mind while you've been listening to this, a kid, a parent, the version of you that nobody believed, then that's who this was written for. Send it to them. And if you tell me which position that you read it from, I'm in the comments and I read every single one.